I'm glad I got you to stay here. Our flag in front of the house is flying upside down, indicating that it's not safe for us to approach the house. It's a good thing I snuck out front just to look in the woods. I managed to go out back into our garden shed without being seen by anyone, and I grabbed my bow out of the garden shed. Thankfully it was in there just so I could do some target practice last week. I also have a supply cache hidden pretty close to here. You stay here and I'll go get it. No, I really need you to stay here. The reason I need you to stay here is I want to minimize the footprints that we have. Whenever we're walking around, we want to walk in our footprints again that we made coming in. That way we don't have fewer footprints around that we can possibly be followed by. Yeah, I know you want to come with me, but please just stay here. I'll be right back. Luckily inside the cache we have a radio. We also have set up a mutual assistance group or a MAG already. Now with our MAG we have a communication plan. As part of our communication plan, 20 minutes past the hour, every 3 hours, there's going to be a radio burst with an information update. That information update is going to be in Morse code, so it's going to be harder for anyone to detect, and it's going to be a relatively short burst. So we'll get everything all set up, we'll get our supply cache, we'll grab our stuff, we'll head a little further back in the woods, and we'll hang tight until we can get an update of exactly what's going on. Now listen, I'm going to go get the supply cache now, you stay here. When I come back, I'm going to put my backpack on. I'm going to get you to carry the supply cache. It's going to be inside of a bucket. I'm going to need both hands in order to operate the bow if we need to use in case of an emergency. So that's why I want you to carry that bucket. You don't have anything to defend yourself? Listen, I have that tomahawk still. I'm going to give you the tomahawk. That way you have something if we do need to defend ourselves. It's certainly better than nothing. Here. You take that, and I'll be right back. Listen, remember, grab the bucket when you go. Listen, let's wait about 2 minutes. We'll just verify that there's nobody else around us, nothing else is moving, and then we'll head right out. All right, let's go. Great, he already got the bucket set down. Let's open it up, take a quick stock of what we have. We'll divvy it up a little bit better so that we can maximize utility, and we'll split the load up so that we're carrying the best possible load between the two of us as we can. So the first thing that we have in here, we have a water bladder. This water bladder is going to be awesome. We can fill this up with hot water. We can use this as a hot water bottle while we're sleeping. We can also put hot water in it while we're hiking. That'll help keep us warm. We have a million uses for duct tape, so we can certainly use that for something, either to repair our equipment or to make something. We can also use this as an improvised fire starter because it's very flammable as well. The next thing that we're going to have is we have this old aluminum water bottle. With this we can boil water in it. I also got tape wrapped around the outside for the same reason. We can use this to repair stuff. We can use it to help build things. We can also use that as a fire starter as well. Alright, so we have a Baofeng radio with an upgraded antenna. I just put the battery back on. The battery showing that it's fully charged, which is awesome. So what I have is a UV9R, which is a little bit more rugged and a little more waterproof than the UV5R. Now with the radio, we also have a mutual assistance group or a MAG set up with our mag. We can communicate together. We do have a communication plan as well. So our communication plan is every 3 hours on the 3, so 3, 6, 9, 12, we're going to have a radio communication burst. That radio communication burst is going to give us an update of exactly what's going on in our area. And we're going to do that radio burst by Morse code. And the reason why we're going to do that by Morse code is not everyone knows Morse code. It's going to help us secure that message a little bit better. We can also use apps on our phones if we don't know Morse code to decode that Morse code for us. The next thing I'm going to have is going to be a set of small Bushnell binoculars. What the binoculars are going to do for us, it's going to give us that ability to collect intel a little bit better. If our eyes are starting to go a little bit or we're further away, it's going to allow us to see better what's going on. It's also, if we have loved ones in the area that we don't want to be pointing a rifle scope at, it's going to give us the ability to see what's happening without pointing a rifle at them. The next thing that I have here, I'm going to have a fuel canister for an old stove that I have. I typically don't use this stove anymore. So they've discontinued these fuel canisters, which is why I stopped using this stove. But I still have a couple fuel canisters left. So the next thing I have is a Peak Outdoor Coleman stove. As far as I know, you can't put any other canisters on these right now, which is why I put it in this particular kit. It's relatively small. It has 2 burners. We'll put that together and we'll get some water boiling here in a minute. The next thing I have is going to be a small sleeping bag. This is not going to be the best sleeping bag for the temperatures that we're having right now. A bigger one would be more ideal, but this sleeping bag is going to be better than nothing. It's going to help keep us quite a bit warmer. So in the bottom here, I have an individual first aid kit. So this is set up for both trauma and kind of as a boo-boo kit as well. So I have an MSR water filter that I can put in line with my water bladder so that we can filter the water as we're on the go if we need to fill up water right away. And how that works is quite simple. For our ends here, we're just going to push that in and that'll clip right in. It'll be nice and secure. And then on our water bladder, on the other end, it's the exact same setup. What you want to keep an eye on is our flow direction. You want to make sure that you don't reverse that by accident. Now, one of the limitations that you're going to have with any kind of a water filter is if the water filters freeze, they are going to crack, they're going to break inside, and they're not going to work as a filter. So it's really important whenever you're using a water filter that you fully dry it out. We're in winter conditions right now, so the water filter is not going to do a whole lot for us. I have a small kit with medications in it. So in here there's just basically some cold medicine, some Tylenol, Advil, and things along that lines. The next things I have kind of all go together. So I have a battery bank. So inside this battery bank, it has 6 18650 batteries. My battery bank, it's kind of hard to tell, but it is 100% charged. The other thing I have is going to be a solar panel. So with my solar panel, I have a couple of options. I can plug this directly into my radio and charge my radio that way, although it's not going to necessarily give constant power all the time. So what we can do to kind of combat that is we can plug this into our battery bank and then charge our battery bank and use our battery bank to charge the radio. For the charger for the radio, it does have a USB connection. So we just plug the USB connection in the back and then we can plug that in. To make it a smaller form factor, I just cut the cord in half, soldered all the wires together, then I put an electrical shrink wrap around it to make sure that water stays out of it. The last couple things I have in here, I'm going to have a small roll of 500-pound bank line. I believe it's number 33 off the top of my head, but I'll double check. Then I'm going to have an extra belt. I have a couple of these belts that are pretty much all the same. They just came in different colors, so I bought about 5 of them when I bought them. And I wear a couple of them, and then I have a couple of them in different kits. So I have a couple of MREs in here. So all we need to do is heat up some water, put that in, wait 10 minutes, and then we're ready to go. When you're putting water in these, you want to keep in mind you want to put the right amount of water in. With any MREs, you can certainly put less water than what they recommend, but there's a trade-off with that. So your body needs so much water in your food to be able to break your food down properly. If you don't have enough water inside these, what'll happen is your body's going to use other water that's inside your body to help break that down, and it's going to dehydrate you a little more. So it's really important you put the right amount of water in. So I have 4 of these. The last thing that I have in my bucket is going to be a set of electrolytes and some coffee packs as well. Why don't we set up our stove right now? We'll get some water boiling. While we're boiling the water, we'll put everything back away just in case we get discovered and we need to leave in a hurry. We're about an hour away from our scheduled communication for our transmission. We're going to leave that out until we are ready for that transmission. Once we've gotten that transmission, we're going to break our radio, we're going to put it away, turn it off to save the battery until our next scheduled transmission. For our stove, it's pretty straightforward to put together. We just need to peel this little black tab off the top, and then to place our stove in, just line it up. All right, to put our fuel canister on, we're just going to line it up with the end. So as our stove lights up, it's going to start with a nice bright flame. As it heats up, that flame is going to become almost invisible. Now I'm going to grab my pot and pan set out of my backpack and we'll boil some water. We'll head down to the creek together. So I just grabbed my pot and pan set out of my get home bag. I have an extra fuel canister for the stove that's in there. Let's run over to the creek and grab some water to boil to make our coffee. Our water in our creek right now is nice and clean. There's no turbidity or anything like that in it. We want to be really careful while we're getting our water. It is flowing water, so everything's either moving downstream or kind of floating to the bottom. So let's be real careful that we don't kick up all kinds of dirt. There we go. We got a nice clean pot of water. And the reason we want to be careful while we're doing this, pretty straightforward. The minute we disturb that bottom, everything's going to turn brown. And we certainly don't want to have that in our water. Stove's lit, you can hear it running. We're going to put our water on. We're going to put the lid on as well. There's a lot of snow everywhere. Our ground's also really uneven. We want to make sure the stove is not sinking into the snow too much, because that could cause our pot to tip over. Then we're not going to have any water to make coffee with, and we're going to waste all that fuel. All right, that's been boiling now long enough that we can put our coffee mix in. So we'll just add that into our cup. And stick that in there. We're going to turn this burner off. And there we have a hot drink for now. Now the reason why I picked this specific stove is for a couple reasons. This stove does need a little TLC. I already mentioned that these fuel canisters aren't available anymore. Temperature outside can affect different types of fuel canisters. So any kind of compressed gas, when you take the canister off in cold weather like this, there's a couple of different risks. It's an older canister, and there's a risk of that valve sticking inside because it's cold outside. So the whole canister might depressurize when I take that off. The other reason is for this particular stove, a lot of the seals are starting to go in it as well. So I'm going to do some research, and if you guys know, put it in the comments if we can put different fuel canisters on this to run this stove, because it is a fairly nice stove. If I am able to put different canisters on, what I'm going to need to do is take the entire stove apart,
replace all the seals on it throughout the entire thing. Now the other concern I have with the stove right now, so this burner won't turn off at all, and it's probably because the seal's starting to go and it's leaking through the seal. And on that side, the control for it doesn't work either. So it might be time to throw this stove out. So I can't turn that burner off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some water on that burner to put it out, and then I'm going to remove the fuel canister. When I remove the fuel canister, 50-50 chance that whole thing's going to empty at the same time. So let's do that now. All right, you can hear that fuel coming out of that side. 1, 2, 3. All right, so this one's sealed back up. I have another one at home that I did this with yesterday, just making sure there was no issues with the stove. When I did that yesterday, the entire canister came out. So there's a couple takeaways from today. Our biggest takeaway is with the equipment that we have, make sure that the equipment's not so old that it's no longer supported, that you can have the ability to reuse it, refuel it, either out in the field or by going into a store to get more supplies. Stores may not be available, they may be available. You may also have a stockpile of supplies as well. So left over from the stove, I had 2 fuel canisters. I filmed this video over 2 days. The first day that I did the filming, when I took the fuel canister off, all the fuel came out of it. Kind of a concern. I don't know if I can put other canisters on this, so I'm going to try a couple of other style canisters that I have. So what I'll do for the stove is I have a couple of adapters. I'm going to try my adapters on the stove, see if I can get those to work with it. So I have some butane adapters, some propane adapters. I'll also try my jet boil fuel canister on that. I'll probably do that next week. So if I'm able to still use it, I'll put that back into another kit and we'll go from there. The other takeaway I have is for my belt holder for my tomahawk. So on that, I put 2 snaps on it to hold the tomahawk in it. That let go at one point today. I'm a little concerned that maybe there's the potential for me to lose that, so I'm going to take it apart a little bit. I'm going to use a longer strip of leather for those snap pieces. I'm going to put 4 snaps instead of the 2 that I have on there. If that solves the problem, great. If not, I'll go back to the drawing board. I'll see what I can do to improve that as well at that point. Alright guys, that's going to be everything for today. Don't forget the bell notification to notify you when I drop new videos. I'm trying to drop between 2 and 3 videos a week. All the shorts that I make are based upon my longer form videos. I'm getting a lot more views on my shorts than my long form videos. So if you're watching shorts, make sure you're also checking out the long form videos so you're getting the whole context of that story.